It's hard for me to select just one great teacher, so I'd like to talk about two. The first is Miss Phillips, who was the only African American teacher I ever had until I was a doctoral student. And she was special in a lot of ways. She was my favorite teacher all through elementary school. And what I really loved about her was that she taught me a life lesson that I never forgot. I was an excellent student. We always had a spelling test at the end of the week. I studied all week. I always got 100 on the test except for 1 week. And that time, I don't know why, I hadn't been able to study. And so the night before, I made a little cheat sheet on my arm. And I wrote the spelling words on my arm, thinking that somehow I would outsmart Miss Phillips. And when she came around checking our papers, she saw my arm. And she came over and she put a big fat 0 on my spelling test. I was devastated. And so I went home and I cried. I don't think I ever cheated after that. And, you know, it would have to be someone like her who was such a warm, caring teacher that I would learn that lesson from. At the end of the year, she knew how I felt about her, and I know she cared for me also, and she asked me if I wanted to help her clean up at the end of the year, and would I like to walk her to her car. Well, first of all, she was a woman who drove a car. I had never known a woman who drove a car. So I helped her and I brought her stuff out to the car. And then she said, "Sonia, would you like to give me a kiss?" That was, you know, I said, "Oh yes, I would," of course, because I loved her. And that was the first time that I saw a teacher really expressing that kind of affection for a student. So that was Miss Phillips, 5th grade teacher. I have this dictionary here. She told me that I could take anything that I wanted from the room as she was cleaning up. It's so old, it no longer has a front cover. I think it was published in 1939. I had her in the 50s. But it's very special for me. My second teacher that I want to mention is Dr. Carlin, who was an English teacher at Erasmus Hall High School, where I went to high school. And she, first of all, was very impressive because, to me, I had never met anyone with a doctorate, and here she was, a high school teacher and a woman. So that alone was reason enough. And she was a wonderful teacher. I remember her asking us if we had read Gone with the Wind. And for those people who had not read it at the time, she said, "Oh, I envy you." And what she meant by that was that we were so lucky that we had something to look forward to. Now, years later, of course, when I realized what a racist book that was, I really had questions about that. But that kind of enthusiasm is something that really spurred me on to read all sorts of things that I might not have. But I also learned to be a critical reader, which is something that I don't think I learned too much about in high school. But Dr. Carlin was, impressive on a number of levels, and I am grateful to her for saying that, because it has spurred my own enthusiasm as a reader.